Good morning. I thank you for being here. I am Hampden District Attorney Anthony Gulluni. I'm joined by Massachusetts State Police Detective Lieutenant Sean Marr, the commander of my office's State Police Detective Unit, Trooper Jeremy Burns, and the director of my office's Community Safety and Outreach Unit, Antonio Simmons, to my right. This press conference has been called to inform the public about the investigation that this office has conducted regarding the information that several juveniles in the town of Southwick engaged in the use of hate speech and race-based bullying on February 9th, 2024. With respect to the facts, on Monday, February 12th, 2024, the juvenile court chief of the Hampden District Attorney's Office was informed by the Southwick Police Department of an incident that occurred involving social media, bullying, and hateful language. The Assistant District Attorney was asked for guidance and provided his input on relevant law and procedure. On Thursday, February 15th, I personally became aware of this incident. The facts that I was given and the nature of this incident compelled me to immediately direct members of my office's Massachusetts State Police Detective Unit to investigate. As a result of that now concluded investigation, earlier this morning, I authorized members of my office's State Police Detective Unit and the Chief Assistant District Attorney of my office's Juvenile Court Unit to pursue criminal charges against 6 juveniles for their alleged roles in facilitating and participating in a hateful, racist online chat that included heinous language, threats, and a mock slave auction. Consequently, as of this morning, a juvenile has been charged with interference with civil rights, threat to commit a crime, and witness interference. A different juvenile has been charged with interference with civil rights and threat to commit a crime, and 4 other juveniles have each been charged with threat to commit a crime, for a total of 6 juveniles who will be criminally charged this morning by my office. Because these charges will be prosecuted in the juvenile court, there are ethical and legal restrictions that prevent me from divulging much of what I would otherwise share with the public, including the identities of the individuals involved. I do offer the following timeline and series of events that we have learned through my office's investigation. Late in the evening on Thursday, February 8th, 2024, and into the early morning hours of Friday, February 9th, a group chat transpired over the social media application Snapchat, which was created by a group of 8th grade students from the town of Southwick. This discussion involved multiple juveniles, some of whom came and went during the course of the group chat. The investigation revealed that several students uttered hateful and racist comments, including notions of violence toward people of color, racial slurs, derogatory pictures and videos, and a mock slave auction directed at 2 juveniles known to them. On Friday, February 9th, the existence of the group chat and some of its subject matter was reported to Southwick school authorities. On Monday, February 12th, 2024, after review by school personnel, several students, including all those who are now charged by this office, were immediately suspended as an emergency removal per state law from the Southwick Regional School. On Thursday, February 15th and Friday, February 16th, several students were formally suspended by the Southwick school system. Most notably, 2 students were suspended for 25 days and 1 student for a period of 45 days. As I stated, on Thursday, February 15th, once the Massachusetts State Police Detective Unit attached to my office was made aware of the allegations, investigators contacted the Southwick Police Department. On the following day, we were provided with materials that had been compiled by the Southwick Police Department. At this point, upon my instruction, the investigation was taken over by this office. At the onset of this process, I met personally with the identified victims and their families. Thereafter, in a relatively short period of time, prosecutors and investigators in my office worked diligently to piece together this investigation, which aims to hold accountable those who committed provable criminal acts. With this, I intend to be very clear. Hatred and racism have no place in this community. and where this behavior becomes criminal, I will ensure that we act, and act with swift resolve, as we did here, to uncover it and bring it to the light of justice. In a report published in 2021, the Government Accountability Office estimated that 5.2 million students aged 12 to 18 were bullied in the 2018-2019 school year. 1 in 4 of those students experienced bullying related to their race, national origin, religion, disability, gender, or sexual orientation. Bullying, especially when it involves race, is an insidious force within a school community and within a community at large. It is also deeply damaging to victims who experience harassment, abuse, and humiliation. Empirical evidence, including from past events in this very region, show clearly that those who face discrimination, bullying, and harassment are more likely to face mental health issues. They are twice as likely to develop severe psychological distress, and there becomes a greater chance for the most tragic circumstances of self-harm and suicide. There is no question that the alleged behavior in this case of these 6 juveniles is vile, cruel, and contemptible. Seeing it and facing the reality that these thoughts, that this ugliness can exist within middle school students here in this community in 2024 is discouraging, unsettling, and deeply frustrating. As I have described, through the work of my office's investigators and the work in court yet to come, we intend to appropriately punish those whose alleged behavior displayed a capacity for such hatred and cruelty, and ultimately amounted to chargeable criminal conduct. And we must also acknowledge that this incident is not and will not be the only one of its kind. It is a reality that we cannot ignore. But as I stand here, I look forward with resolve and commitment to enact change and to foster progress in this community. We must take a proactive approach to teaching our children about empathy, compassion, and fairness. These affirmative efforts are necessary as there exists compelling influences in the various forms of social media, among other things, that if left unchecked in the hands of children can have the opposite effect. That is part of the reason why I have initiated the following 3 forward-looking steps to confront this problem in Hampden County, with the hope that we can prevent future harm, encourage empathy, and build stronger communities that are free of hate. Number 1, in the immediate future, my office's Community Safety and Outreach Unit, led by Mr. Simmons, will deliver curriculum around the issue of hate and bullying to the Southwick community. In the weeks since this incident came to light, number 2, I have had conversations with Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell, and members of my office have spoken with counterparts in the AG's office. These conversations have led to a promising partnership between our offices to create a specific program to more deeply address and remediate the harmful forces of bigotry, racism, and bullying in our schools. And 3, we have had conversations with leadership of the Massachusetts State Police, which recently announced a new unit called HART, which stands for Hate Crimes Awareness and Response Team. We will enlist their support and resources to jointly instruct police departments and school personnel across Western Massachusetts on best practices regarding hate crimes and bullying within schools. While I am optimistic that these initiatives will have a meaningful influence, I implore everyone to take their own steps to fight racism and bullying. We have a responsibility to call out ignorance and hate when we witness it. We have a responsibility to promote tolerance and empathy. And when we accept this duty, we all have a powerful impact on our communities. These acts of kindness and courage can reverberate with equal or greater strength than the very acts of hate for which we are here today. It is my hope that this unequivocal message that hate and bullying will not be tolerated in this county will deter people from similar behavior. I hope that communities will surround those affected by hate and bullying with support and love so that victims become resilient survivors. I hope that people who make mistakes and those who witness them will learn from them so as not to repeat them. I hope that our collective efforts to promote empathy, compassion, and tolerance will overcome the forces of apathy, malice, and intolerance. This is not an issue exclusive to a place or to an age group or to a particular race. This is a universal issue that we must face as one unified community. Let's move forward with hope, resiliency, and a commitment to justice. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
The kids that were affected, have they gone back to school, or are they learning remotely?
My belief is they're still under suspension.
No, the kids who were targeted.
Oh, I'm sorry. The kids who are targeted, I don't want to speak for them. I've had communication with them and representatives. I don't necessarily want to give a timeline of their return so as to make sure that if they seek confidentiality, they can have it.
Mr. Gulluni, how often does your office get involved in cases like this? Is this standard procedure, or is it based on the severity of the allegations?
It's a little bit of both. We have a duty to enforce state criminal laws in the county, and when they're broken, we step up. This situation is obviously bracing and more severe than what we've seen in the past, and it called to bear our most urgent efforts and our best resources. As I mentioned, I met with the families and victims and had very meaningful conversations, and we worked very diligently on this case in particular because it affected the community. It was a concern of many, many people in the town of Southwick and beyond in this county. But when, as I said, this kind of criminal harassment and bullying occurs, we did here, and we will treat it as harshly as the law allows. This is a serious issue for our community and for the victims affected.
And for a follow-up to that, because our station has spoken to another parent who used to belong to the Southwick district, whose son was being bullied because he was gay. This was a while ago, but have you spoken to that parent as well as other parents from within the district who have similar stories?
No, I have not. I'm not aware of those situations. They'd obviously have to come to law enforcement for my office to take any official action. Our focus was this particular case in the last month or so. It was really all hands on deck. If there's other issues that come to our attention, we will deal with them similarly.
Gulluni, how involved were the school's administrators in this process of kind of helping you guys with information and helping this kind of be a smooth and transparent process?
This was a law enforcement investigation conducted by my office and its state police. We generally received cooperation from other agencies and authorities. So, we, as I mentioned, received information from the school department, from the police department in Southwick, and we were really in a position to compile our own information as well, including what was given to us, and then make a decision about criminal charges.
Have the victims' families been made aware of the charges, or will they find out today?
They've been made aware. It was my promise to them that they would know before the public, and we fulfilled that promise.
What are
Can you
the
give the
potential
ages of the suspected of the juveniles charged, the specific ages?
I can't give you the six. They were all in 8th grade and either 13 or 14.
What are the potential penalties linked to the charges?
The juvenile court system, Stephanie, operates very differently. Juvenile delinquency is the equivalent of essentially of incarceration. Some of the charges, the civil rights violations, are a little bit more serious and involve the potential for a delinquency finding. Some are not. The juvenile court system, of course, is a closed court system. So I'm hopeful that whichever judge or jury hears these facts it takes it as seriously as we do.
Are they being arraigned in juvenile court today?
That I don't know. The process had just begun this morning. We were at the juvenile court to start the process. Yes, sir.
So what is the process? So the students are notified, their parents are notified, what happens then?
They'll answer to the charges.
A police officer comes out, picks them up,
Not
the
necessarily.
sheriff's department, the parents bring them to the station, how does that work?
They'll answer to the charges in court.
When you talk to these families, I think the most difficult part of it, unlike past generations when it comes to bullying, that it doesn't stop, that it stays online 24/7?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak for my own experience and not for the victims. Absolutely, the problem of bullying has worsened because of social media. I mean, one might think that it's not in person, it's not face to face, it's not as bad. But when you understand the power and presence of social media in kids' lives, and the fact that it's ubiquitous, right? It's really through which they do almost everything, right? It becomes all-consuming and constant. And we've talked a lot about this as an office and with our community safety and outreach unit in schools across this county. We have a program about social media responsibility and bullying. So for kids who are experiencing bullying, it spreads like wildfire. It's constant and can be extraordinarily damaging to victims.
What's your message do you hope that parents take away from today's charges?
Well, as I mentioned, that's a great question. This occurred in the late night hours into the very early morning hours of a weekday, which was surprising to me that kids of this age had essentially unfettered access to social media, their phones, their computers, 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning on a weeknight, no less. So my suggestion would be respectfully that parents monitor their kids' use of devices, they monitor their use of social media, that parents are aware of the social media platforms that their kids are using, that they have access to what their kids are posting and seeing. And those are difficult conversations, but parents have to have them. And my community safety and outreach unit has actually put out a booklet about the risk levels of different social media applications, how some can be misused, how some are designed to hide things from parents and authority figures, how some are designed to send things like inappropriate pictures. So if your kids are using these applications, they shouldn't be, period. And to understand how things like Snapchat, Instagram can be used to do things that kids shouldn't be doing.
Could you talk a little bit more about the community safety and outreach unit led by Mr. Simmons?
I'm happy to. It's something that we've developed in the last 8 or 9 years in my administration. We've strengthened it, we've grown it. I'm incredibly proud of the work that they do, led by Tony. They're in the community each and every day. They're in schools every week. They run our youth advisory board, which brings together high school students from across the county throughout the academic year to talk about issues like social media and bullying and racism and et cetera. So they really are an integral part of my office, and more particularly the understanding that I have and we have as a prosecuting agency about what's happening in the various parts of this county, what's happening with young people, the issues they're confronting. And then through that understanding, we develop programming that gets ahead of issues, that stands in a preventative posture about how we can, in situations like this, get in front of bullying, hate, racism, other issues that our young people are confronting. And our community safety and outreach unit is 4 people. And again, that their entire responsibility is to be in the community, be our eyes and ears, and work in the community to educate and prevent crime before it happens.
Mr. Gulluni, because we were talking about the parents before, did you in your office speak to parents of those you charged, and did you find that there were any of those adults who may have been partially responsible for their kids' actions?
I did not speak with any parents involved. That wouldn't be appropriate. Investigators did have some contact with some of those who were ultimately charged and parents. And that would be the normal course in any criminal investigation.
And are there...
The social media channels work with law enforcement, correct? To give up any information that you're looking for?
The simple answer is yes, but often it's much more complicated and difficult than that. Some platforms are easier to deal with and quicker to deal with. Some require court authorized subpoenas, some don't. We do a lot of that work with all kinds of crime, and yes, but it's often very time consuming and arcane.
Mr. Gulluni, are there any other investigations in Hampden County similar to this that are occurring right now?
Not that I can comment on, no.
Are all the accused white students?
I don't know, and I'm not in a position to say so, I'm sorry.
Have you spoken to the specific family that has been kind of the center of this investigation, the Lopez family?
I have, yeah. I spoke with the victim's family, the victim, and the other family affected by this, as I mentioned. Yes.
Have you also spoken to the NAACP Springfield branch who brought up the complaint as well?
I have multiple times, as recent as about a half hour.
Can you go into a little more detail about the threats? What were the nature, like physical violence, threats of physical
Correct.
violence aimed toward these two classmates?
Yes.
Just a couple of quick questions outside of what was discussed today in regards to the shooting that happened on I-391. Do you have any updates on that investigation? Like, are witnesses cooperating, and do you have an identity of the dead victim and the injured victim?
We, I believe, did publicize the identity of the victim, or we will in short order. The State Police Detective Unit attached to my office is actively investigating, and there are no updates that I can provide at this juncture.
Thank you.
Anything else with regard to this matter?
Could you explain what it exactly means, a threat to commit a crime, and specifically interference with civil rights? What exactly falls under that umbrella?
A threat can be any actionable statement that indicates someone is going to commit some sort of harm on another person. It's a very broad sort of statute. With interference with civil rights, there's enumerated civil rights in the statute that if one meaningfully interferes with those rights, someone's right to schooling or someone's right to health and so forth, they're sort of broad categories, then a criminal prosecution can commence around those particular things.
Are these felonies? Any of the charges felonies?
The interference with civil rights, I believe, is a felony. All right.
By the way, when it comes to that felony, what could be the maximum penalty for something like that?
In the juvenile court, it's delinquency, which would be, depending on the age, it would be served in a DYS facility. It's a very different system than our adult system.
Also, do you have an update on the investigation to what happened at SciTech earlier this week?
I don't. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.